Yes. Okay, good morning to everyone. Also from my side, I assume you will be seeing the presentation mode right now. Okay. So thanks for the introduction, Valentina. This is Gülşah Yılan from Unitel Sapienza University of Rome. We are the coordinator of this Sustrack project, and now we are organizing this series of conferences we call Design Conference. This is going to be the third workshop related to the textile sector. And I think this is going to be the most crowded one, and we are looking forward to hearing your perspective on the issues that we want to highlight. So just a very quick presentation from my side, and then I would like to leave the floor to our pitchers, invited speakers to share their ideas, perspectives, recommendations. The objectives of our workshop is threefold. We want to present an overview of selected value chains in the textile sector, and we will provide our point of view, mentioning process description, market information, and relevant policy instruments as a starting point for the discussions. And then we want to be inspired by specific case studies, by the invited speakers, seeing their perspective and also benefit from their knowledge and expertise, providing their perspective, good practices, and also challenges and or barriers they have been facing in this transition from linear to circular economic model. And finally, we will discuss three dimensions, being policy dimension, environmental and societal dimension, and economic dimension, and provide recommendations for this transition in the textile sector. And what we expect from this workshop are providing actionable knowledge in terms of inspirational good practices, challenges, barriers, and recommendations in the sector, and to collect additional information to our ongoing Sustrack research, such as identifying relevant indicators and checking data availability or data gaps. And finally, to co-create tailored policy recommendations to pave the way for future policy developments, considering different levels, such as regional, national, or European. So here is the agenda of our workshop today. This part is the opening, and the overview will come in a second to give you an idea of our Sustrack project for the ones who have been here with us for the first time. Then we will immediately switch to the case study presentations, and the structure will be the same for all case studies. We will start by introducing our case study from our perspective, and then we will have invited speakers from different companies, research centers, and so on. And then we will open a quick session of questions and answers. Then this is going to be first
fresh air, but
sorry. This is going to be man-made cellulosic fibers first, and then wool cluster. In that cluster, we will have two different case studies from Spain and Italy. And then we will have the invited speakers again. Finally, we will open the interactive session to discuss all three dimensions that we will already hear about, in order to promote the contribution of all participants, sharing their experience, sharing their visions. And then we will finalize the meeting in 2 hours, we assume. And then we will give the overview of what we have collected today. So here is the overview of our project, and Sustrack reads as supporting the identification of policy priorities and recommendations for designing a sustainable track towards circular bio-based systems. We started working on this project in November 2022, and this is a 3-year project, which is also a coordination and support action. This is why stakeholder engagement is at the very core of our project. We are organizing different workshops, conferences, and this part is where we really appreciate your contribution as we are organizing all these events. And just some keywords from the abstract. So we are starting with the importance of this transition from linear to circular systems, underlining the opportunities to reconcile sustainable long-term growth with environmental protection. However, we are also in the need to have a critical assessment method of the impacts and also the potential improvements associated with the circular systems. And these are all going to provide help and support to drive policy priorities. So building on these aspects, we are aiming to support policymakers to develop more sustainable pathways to replace fossil and carbon-intensive systems with sustainable and circular and also bio-based ones. And of course, at the same time, the aim is to achieve the European Green Deal's objectives. And at this very moment, I would also like to encourage you to visit our website to check our social media profiles, which we are using very actively to communicate not only the activities, stakeholder engagement activities, but also the results of our project. And the main and specific objectives in a nutshell again, we are hoping to provide knowledge and tools for monitoring and assessing the impacts related to both linear and circular economic models. And building on this knowledge and tools and the collected information, we are going to identify priorities and define actions to support policymakers. And we are having different perspectives, such as European, local, and cross-territorial scopes. And we are using 5 different specific objectives as stepping stones in order to reach the main objectives. The first one is to identify, assess, and prioritize the environmental, economic, and social limits of not only linear, but also a circular economic model, which we already compiled, we completed, and we even published a paper out of this research. And now we are in the phase of developing knowledge and tools for this monitoring, and we are creating a framework and a dashboard. Now, I switch to the third specific objective, which is to assess the environmental, social, and economic impacts of the transition. And these workshop series are specifically feeding this objective. So we are using also your insights, your inputs to improve our case study analysis. Then we will use the information to create, simulate, and interpret a variety of scenarios using system dynamic modeling. And all the different specific objectives will feed the final one, to identify policy priorities, to define corresponding policy actions, and to provide recommendations. And just a quick look at the barriers that we identified specific to textile sector, but we always see they are overlapping with different sectors as well. And just to give you the idea of the complexity of the problem, we have different clusters such as cultural, economic, environmental, structural, and technical. And to name a couple of them, we see missing communication, misinformation, and disinformation under the cultural cluster is a very prominent barrier. And for example, for economic barriers, fluctuating prices and unstable supply of biomass and raw materials stand out. And with this, I think we've set the frame to open the discussions, open the invited speakers. I take it over to Valentina, and thank you very much again for being here. I hope you will enjoy the workshop.
Thanks, Gulsa, for the nice introduction. So before going and diving deep into our case studies, we just want to break the ice a little bit with all the participants. So I asked to Luis to share the screen. So we're asking you to take your cell phone for just a minute and scan this QR code. So we want to ask you, as participants, what kind of stakeholder category you represent. If you are a researcher, you are from an industry, you are from an SME, you are an NGO, or if you have other categories. So to enter, just scan the QR code, or if you prefer, you can also go from your laptop on menti.com, as you see here, and enter the code you read here. So 21985458. So we will give you just a few seconds to enter. And I think we can start showing the question, Luis. So as said, we are asking, what kind of stakeholder category do you represent? So I see the first response is coming. So in the past workshops, we were some way balanced among researchers and industries and SMEs. So some responses are coming. I think that this is very similar to last workshops. So we have a good number of researchers and good numbers of big industries, but also SMEs and startups, some others. We have not policymakers here, but we are not expecting them. We will invite them to join more plenary conference in September, and we will also share with you details of this general conference. So I think we have a great overview here of the participants. I would not spend more time on this, and I'm happy to introduce our first SASTRAC experts. So Sanabel from Wageningen Research University, which will introduce the man-made cellulosic fibers like lyocell. Sanabel, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Valentina. I will share my screen. I hope you can see it now. Yeah, can you see my screen?
Not yet.
Okay, just give me that a minute. Okay, now.
Yes, perfect.
Yes, thank you so much. As Valentina mentioned, I'm Sanabel from Wageningen Food Bio-Based Research. And before going into the lyocell value chain, I would first introduce okay, I think it's not going. Yeah, I would like first to introduce what is man-made cellulosic fiber. As you may already know that man-made cellulosic fiber is any type of fibers that is regenerated from biomass cellulosic-rich fibers, basically wood from tree. And it was first introduced in the 19th century, where the movement toward more sustainable materials. And first it was a viscose process where out of toxic chemicals on the long process were produced, but then throughout development, we get into more eco-friendly, more sustainable fibers. We came into the lyocell. Of course, man-made cellulosic fiber made its route to textile industry due to their desired properties. Looking into the textile industry now, it's basically based or dominated by fossil-based fiber, where 65% of the fiber used is fossil-based. And if we want to really make the transition to more bio-based material, we need to look into more a type of fibers like regenerated fibers. So looking into the lyocell value chain, we first need the feedstock. Of course, we have either from a virgin source, a wood, or from a recycled source. And then these raw materials transferred into a bulb by bulbing process. After that, this pulp is spun into a filament or fibers. Then it's spun into a yarn by different spinning process, rotor or ring, others, and then this can be transferred into a fabric. And of course, lyocell can be used in woven, non-woven, and knitting material. After the final product is made, then it's finally put in the market. We use it, and then we put it in the end of life. For example, for reusing, recycling, and landfill or incineration. Looking into the market of man-made cellulosic fiber, we can see now it's only 6% of the fibers used in the textile industry is man-made cellulosic fiber. If we take a deep look, we can find that lyocell is the third man-made cellulosic fiber produced, with only 4% of the man-made cellulosic fibers used in textile industry. Currently, Asia is the most produced of the lyocell market, with 70%. Of course, we looked into the stakeholders that is related to the lyocell products from the supply chain into the end of life, and we map them into 4 categories: government, academia, industry and civil society. And looking into this, we can see that it's a lot of stakeholders included into this transition, which make it like really a challenge. The policy currently in textile industry, we can see it, a lot of regulation is coming. And we can see that on EU level, for example, the Eco-Design for Sustainable Products regulation, a lot of this is stimulating to use a more bio-based and sustainable material. But also on national level, I'm taking Netherlands as an example. And also a lot of push from the regulation will be to use more recycled material, more bio-based material, and that can be a help to put more man-made cellulosic fiber into the market. The indicators related to the lyocell, we have the environmental, economical, and social indicators. For environmental indicators, we can see the biomass, water, energy consumption per ton, for example. You can see the economic indicator and social indicators. However, we can know that the economic indicators, and especially the social indicator, it is still a research gap. I would like to thank you. This was like a little bit of the research that we are doing now currently. And I would like to introduce our first speaker. If you have a question, please leave them in the chat or keep them. We have a Q&A session after speakers from the industry. I would ask now Johan Enerloch from Lenzen Group, the head of the funding monitoring BMO Global Research. Please take the floor. And
yes. Hey, good morning to everyone. It's a pleasure to be here and to discuss with you and also to present some things. I guess I have 5 minutes, and I guess you will share the slides, or should I share the slides?
Yes, please. You can share the slides and take control of it.
Okay, so then just give me 1 second. This is usually the tricky part. So I guess now you should be able to see my screen. And yeah, then I'll start with the short introduction about Lenzing. Perhaps some of you already have heard about Lenzing, as we are a rather large player in this field of man-made cellulosic fibers, which were just introduced. And on the upper left-hand side, you see the value chain where we are operating. So we take wood from the forest. So we have 3 pulp mills, then converted to pulp, and this pulp onwards to fibers. So fibers is our main product, lyocell, viscose, and modal. And afterwards, these fibers enter either the textile or the nonwovens chain, or in some special cases, there's some what we call new business areas, these technical and industrial applications like filtration, packaging, shoes. So this is only a small niche for us, but very interesting and also growth sector. So this is where we're operating. And next to this graph, you see a sketch how the factory in Lenzing works. Because here in Lenzing, we have a pulp mill, which is here labeled as biorefinery. We produce our pulp, and from this pulp onwards, we produce the different types of fibers. And also here in Lenzing, again, we have all 3 generations of man-made cellulosics, viscose, modal, and lyocell. And here it's also mentioned that for lyocell, we not only have the staple fibers, but we're also able to produce filaments. But besides the fibers, we also produce other materials from wood. So about 40% is pulp and onwards to fibers. Then 10% are these other products like the acetic acid, which is rather well known here in Austria and can be found in various products like mixed pickles, also cleaning agents. And then the rest, about 50%, we use for energy. So this is really a whole usage of the wood. And as talking about lyocell, there's also a small sketch how the lyocell process looks like below. So I will not go into detail because then I would use much more than my 5 minutes. But just if you take a look, you see there are many closed loops, many things going back to the process, either the solvent, the NMO, or also the water. So everything, much of this is recycled. And so this is also a challenge. So if you have something coming into this process, which is dirt or some other things that should not be there, that tends to sum up during the process. So it's hard to get rid of them. This is also a challenge when talking about recycling. And also recycling circularity. So this is the next one. So this is somewhat the business model of Lansing is a little bit similar to the value chain for man-made cellulosics we already saw. But what's really important, and I think what was missing a little bit on this first graph, is that as this is cellulose, it's a natural material, it can biodegrade, so it can come back to nature. So there's always this natural cycle. And so this is already there for a long time, and it's proven that that our fibers can biodegrade and they do no harm to the environment. So this is also important. And then the smaller inner one is this technical cycling, this recycling of used textiles, old textiles, where we're also working on. So we're working on different scales. So the large one, the biological natural cycle, the smaller one, this recycling of used garments, this technical cycle, and on a small scale up there, which is again this process, as I showed you, this is a very close to process. So we have circularity on different scales, and yeah, so we really try to live this within our processes and philosophy. So talking about the policy, so yeah, 5 minutes is challenging. I could talk to 5 hours about them, and so I just a quick look and only a little bit about the textile strategy, as this is about textiles, and some of these regulations has already been shown. And what you see on the bottom line is recyclability, no hazardous substances, transparency. So this is all thing that's targeted or demanded by the new textile strategy, but this is more a wish list. So you need some regulations, some laws to bring this into life. And here some of them are mentioned, like also the digital product passports, the Green Lane Directive, so that there's a lot of interplay between these regulations, and only a few of them are already enforced. So some of them are still developed. It's not quite sure where they will go. And as I said, of course, there's an interplay between them. And sometimes it's also, I would not say contradiction, but sometimes it's hard to fulfill everything. What's not here now, but I think it's a part of the next slide, is also our raw material is mainly wood. And also there's the deforestation regulation coming up in the European Union. So if you're no longer allowed to use wood, but on the other hand, you should use bioresources instead of fossils. So this is becoming a little bit tricky. So there's always a little bit, let's say, interplay between all these regulations, and it's hard to fulfill them sometimes, or even when you don't know how it is going. So, but we will have big impact here. So, but this is just a glimpse. So there, of course, there are many other regulations and policies that affect us. One topic where we put a lot of work in and still put a lot of work in is this microplastic, microfiber topics, because there we also had to do several research projects to show that cellulose biodegrades. So I think usually people would know or be quite sure about that cellulose is biodegradable, but we had to do a lot of research projects to prove or show this again. So there's also an interplay between the regulations and the research we're doing here in Lansing, and also of course with partners. So the dimensions, challenges. So on the left hand, you see the challenges. Yeah, of course, climate change, pollution of water and air. You mentioned it, that textile industry is deemed to be one of the most polluting along the whole value chain. Transparency was also a demand by the policy. More coming up, circular economy, which is also a challenge on the technical way. Waste and microplastic, deforestation, I already mentioned. So there are a lot of challenges, but from my side, I think also from a Lansing point of view, it's all these challenges. There can be also big opportunities if you can offer a solution for this. So these are challenges, and on the right side, it's really in a nutshell the sustainability strategy of Lansing, how we try to address this with some focus fields, like working with the whole value chain. So we are not just focusing on our processes and our products, but to work with partners along the whole value chain to green the value chain and to get it more sustainable. And we have a lot of partners here. And of course, this also includes circularity. in this case, mostly working on this recycling topic. As I said, the biological cycle is already established, so strong focus on the technology development. And of course, together with this, we want to drive the systematic change, as you want to do with SUSTRAC, to make the whole textile and also non-wovens value chain greener, more sustainable. And you see, this is also well aligned with many of the sustainable development goals, which are, you know, some guiding light, and then we're working on different topics here. So this is really, and you see there's also, of course, not the environmental, and you mentioned before, it's hard to get the data about the social impact, but we're also working here, like you see, we have the topic empowering people, then the community well-being of the communities around our factories, because we have factories all around the world, and of course, throughout the value chain, we also want to improve this as much as our input is here. So now also a little bit to the economic dimensions, and I guess you know the picture from the upper left, it was already shown too, that the cellulosic fibers are only a small fraction of all the fibers. And also if you take a close look, also the natural fibers is only a small fraction. So this is, I think, since 70 years about, there was this big rise in synthetic fibers, which became available in large quantities, and you see on the right side, they are cheap. So polyester still is the cheapest fiber, and this is available in large quantities. And so many textile producers, but also non-wovens producers, they are used to work with polyester. It's the cheapest material, they know how to process it. So many of them are reluctant to change to something that is more sustainable. So you see why the price is not going up. It's rather stable or a little bit going down, depending also on the region. Below, you see that the prices for raw materials and energy, at least for where we are operating, are going up. So there's this imbalance. Also, the textile market is stagnating. So looking from a sustainability point of view, perhaps that's not a bad thing. But yeah, so it's also the market is not growing. And all the fibers, most of the fibers coming to the market are, again, polyester fibers, because they are cheap, and with all the ecological situation, many people revert back to buying cheap clothes. So there's only, of course, many people would be willing to buy sustainable clothes, so they would prefer to buy sustainable clothes, but they cannot afford it. And there's usually cellulosic fibers are more expensive than polyester, and there we're talking about the standard fibers. So if you're talking about recycling, so the price will even go up. So this is what we see now as a big challenge. One is to develop the technology for recycling, but the other thing is the market uptake, because for a long time it will be more expensive than a virgin fiber. So this is also, I think, something where policy inputs and regulations are needed, some subsidies are needed to really bring this recycling fibers to the market, especially for bio-based fibers, because for synthetics it's a little bit easier to recycle them. So, and if you go to a shop and you see recycled fibers, mostly it's recycled polyester, which also from an environmental point of view and sustainability view it's not the best thing. So you always have to balance this, and but perhaps as a closing word, business cases, I have no business case here, and because we are no startup, we are no young company, Lansing is around for more than 85 years, and we are not the only company producing already bio-based fibers. You see, also it's only 6%, there is material available, so there's already something to start with, and there's also something that is often forgotten by brands, by policy, that there is something you already can work with, you can start with, you can shift from fossil to something bio-based. There are fibers available, and you don't need to wait for the newest fancy development. Of course, we will also need all these new developments, especially in recycling and looking at alternative raw materials or alternative processes. But for the time being, there is already something available in large volumes that can be used to shift from fossil to bio-based and hopefully also to circular. So, and I think that's my presentation for now. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Johan. Indeed, very interesting and a lot of information. I would now, please, if you have any question, keep them in a chat, or in 5 minutes we will have a Q&A session. You can then ask Yuan. I would like to ask now our second speaker, Shahrayar Mahmoud, the Chief Product Sustainability Officer from Spinnova, to join us.
Good afternoon, everyone. I believe you can hear me and see me?
Yes. Yes.
Great. I try to share the screen first, and I will try to be quite quick.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Great. I was looking into the presentation of Lyocell. I was feeling this on my one probably would look a bit boring, but I will try to make it more interesting for you, because the technology itself is very, very interesting, I believe. So I'm going to represent to you here the Spinnova technology and what it is about, and different dimensions that is quite a kind of a need for this specific workshop. First of all, I try to list that what basically the technology is about in a nutshell. So we at least believe that this is the most sustainable technology for producing the man-made cellulosic fiber at the moment, because we produce it through a very mechanical process, unlike the dissolving and regeneration process. So we take different kind of raw materials, like the lyocell viscose processes are typically using, like wood pulp. And also we have seen that if we take like agricultural waste-based pulp or textile waste-based pulp, these are pretty much working in Spinnova technology. One thing is to note that we can use actually the kraft pulp, so the raw form of pulp, instead of the dissolving pulp, which is more a need for the viscose and lyocell process. So as we can use the raw form of pulp, so the yield is definitely naturally very high. And if we utilize a single source of pulp, like wood pulp or agricultural waste pulp or textile waste-based pulp, we can use it of 100%. So meaning that typically the textile waste-based pulp are typically still mixed with the virgin pulp, but in Spinnova process, we have converted it quite successfully from 100% textile waste-based pulp to 100% Spinnova fiber. And then we, on the other hand, non-cellulosic side, we have been using the same technology, and we have been able to convert also the tannery waste mechanical process to a fiber. And highlighted that it's all of this done through a very mechanical process, so no dissolving and regeneration happened here. And in the product level, it is truly comparable to cotton. The reason is the aesthetic mainly, like whether it looks a bit shiny or silky or not. And also on the other hand, the drapes and this kind of aesthetic feature are also quite similar to the man-made, the natural fibers like cotton or hemp and so on. And of course, we have made our first, opened up our first commercial plant or industrial scale plant, so which already proven in the market that it is highly scalable technology. And here is my contact. So I've been trying to follow the exact format given for this workshop. I try to add in the last moment this kind of a picture that how the Spinnova technology works. So it basically is any kind of pulp I mentioned. We mechanically refine it. It's so basically grinding it, and then we make a paste, a suspension out of it, and then it's passed through the spinning nozzle. When it's passing through the spinning nozzle, coming out as a filament fiber, we dry it a little bit to get out the moisture, and then fiber is basically ready for chopping and do the rest of the post-processing. So basically there is, as you can see in the whole process, there is no chemical process involved. So we basically don't use any chemical in the process and water in the process, and there is no wastewater or any kind of solid waste is coming out of the process. And then the fiber can be used in the typical yarn spinning process and then further. I tried to list those also the environmental and societal dimensions here through Spinnova technology. What could be possibly? We can already see that if you source the raw material, there are alternative feedstock can be utilized. But at the same time, if we use the wood at the moment, that wood we are using, of course, all are FSC certified, and that means which is fully traceable. Our the whole process is a waste-free process, as I mentioned, that there is no wastewater or air emission or solid waste produced. And this is actually a good proof that our first industrial scale plant doesn't need any environmental permit because we don't produce any of those waste. So we are free from that requirement. And then Spinnova, we have done in the fiber level, in the cellulosic fiber level, some LCA, and it has shown that already 74% less carbon footprint compared to conventional cotton, and also 98% less water consumption, because as you can see that this is completely water-free process, almost we can say. Of course, there is water in the suspension, but no processed water as such, where what is the most consumption part. And the fiber is cellulosic fiber, of course, so fully biodegradable. We have tested it also, and recyclable within Spinnova process. So our process is very much suitable to recycle Spinnova. But at the same time, we have seen that other chemical recycling process, so fiber to fiber, textile to textile recycling process, very much applicable. Cellulosic recycling also very much applicable for Spinnova. So we have seen basically with all these kind of advantages in the technology provides. We have seen also in the LCA indicators that all other indicators than only CO2 footprint already look very good, and compared to almost all of the conventional or mainstream fiber, I could say, it looks pretty good. And we will actually do it more on the comprehensive level in the future. Economic dimension, I don't bring the whole because we are still in very early phase, so we are not comparing to the lyocell or viscose or the market, but what we have been trying to see that how we should penetrate into the market. So we have been establishing it to the commercial path. So we established our first pilot production unit in 2019. This is actually quite large pilot unit, I would say, to produce few ton. And then we have been able to do the main industrial scale factory. That's a joint venture between Spinnova and Suzano, the largest pulp producer. So that was our main big leap, I would say. And now we have also signed an LOI that Suzano will be building the next plant of 20 kiloton capacity. So we see a lot of interest actually from the market. So we see that because of this, the nature of this fiber, it could be really a big addition to the mainstream fiber source in the industry. I think we also need. I really write the last bullet to bring in this in this workshop a point to consider that. A level playing field, I think we need for the bio-based product compared to the synthetically made products. This will help actually scale up this bio-based technology. So we can elaborate this if there is in the Q&A session, some questions and topics are coming up. But I will end up here now my presentation. Maybe I took more than 5 minutes now.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Shahryar. Also, like a very interesting to hear from different industry, different perspective, and different challenges. I think we run on a bit of time. If you have any question for Shahryar, also please, if you have any question, you can raise it now.
Annabelle, I see a question in the chat. I don't know if Stefan have a question for Joanne. I think we can quickly go through it if you want, Joanne, and then we can move on to the next case study.
Yeah, already read it. So it's one about the raw material requirements if you want to recycle it. And yeah, of course, we recycle the cellulosic fraction. So the more cellulose is in a garment, in a used garment, the better for us. So at the moment, the recycling process more or less is also some kind of pulping process. So we feed this into a pulping process instead of wood. We're using old used textiles. And then we get back the cellulosic fraction, so the other fractions are lost. We use this for energy at the moment, but of course the future vision would be also to recycle this, that we could add also polyester recycling to this. But at the moment, we, together with partners, and here especially it's Södra from Sweden, we are focusing on the cellulosic fraction to get back the cellulose of a pulp, which is then made from recycled material or recycled material and wood in combination. And one of the biggest problems, and I think that's true for everyone working on textile recycling, is elastane. So elastane nowadays is present in many, many fabrics, in many, many pieces of clothing, only a few percentages, but it's so hard to get rid of this. So this is really causes a trouble during the recycling procedure. And if it's still in the pulp, so it's big problem is elastane, but also some other synthetic fibers like polyamidazole. And only if there are small fractions left, this will be a trouble in the fiber production. As I showed you, especially the lyocell process is very, very closed loop process. So if you get this in the process, it's hard to get rid of it, then it will disturb the whole process, also the recovery and everything. It's easier with the viscose process because here you have some channels to get rid of, let's say, dirt. So it's really the problem is some synthetic fibers, especially elastane, also some dyes, but dyes you can remove relatively well during the pulping process. Metals, it's also something you can remove quite well. So it's really the big challenges are small amounts of residual synthetic fibers and especially elastane. And what do we recover? It's also differentiation between cotton or viscose. So as you saw, most of the cellulosic fibers out in the market is cotton. So of course we focus on the cotton recycling, but we did some principal trials that also, of course, some man-made cellulosics, then principle, they can also be recycled. So, and I think in the future it will be a mixed stream, cotton, viscose, lyocell, all the cellulosics, and they should be recycled together in one factory. So I don't think it makes sense to separate this into different fiber types, but to put it together. Also because for viscose, the chain length is already rather short, so it would be beneficial to blend with cotton with a longer chain length, but this now really gets technical. And about the price, I'm from research, so usually I cannot really give price indications, but it's not just a few percents, and it's not a tenfold, but somewhere in between. And the problem is, that I think from a final made T-shirt or any other garment, the fiber price is only a small section. But let's say if we add, just as an estimate or a house number, if a recycled fiber costs 50% more, then everyone in the step adds something. Everyone in the value chain adds additional costs, even it's the same processing. And so the final garment is much, much more expensive than just the small amount from the fiber price. So this is also a challenge, how to handle this. So price for sure is one thing. The other thing is also a little bit the performance. But here we really focus that the recycled fiber has the same performance as a virgin fiber. So, okay, this was...
Yes.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Joanna, for the very precise answers. So I see that many other questions are coming up in the chat. We will go in on that later on during the open discussion. So thanks to everybody. Rest reassured that these questions will not be lost. So we can, I think, move on to the next case study. So we will dive deep into the wool world. So I want to introduce our expert, Janir from Tecnalia, for the introduction of the Laxta sheep wool from the Basque Country case study. Please, Janir.
Yes, thank you very much, Valentina. My name is Yanira Clavel from Tecnalia, Spain, and I will be presenting the Ternua case study. Let's see. We'll share my screen. Can you see it? Can you see my screen?
Yes, not in presentation mode, but we see.
Now, right?
Perfect.
Okay. Then Ternua. Ternua is a Basque clothing manufacturer, and they use the latza wool, which is a type of sheep, the one that in the picture from the Basque Country and Navarra. Okay, and nowadays this kind of wool is a huge residue here in the Basque Country, and Ternua is using it as insulation layer for high quality jackets. So this is the value chain for this case study. First, we have the collection of the primary residue, which is the latza wool. Then this wool, in general, all the wool has to go through a really huge treatment for producing the intermediate product, which is the wool yarn. And then with this wool yarn, we produce the final product, in this case, the insulation layer for high quality jackets, outdoor jackets. And then we have the end-of-life treatment. So with the popularization of synthetic fibers, the latza wool and wool in general has become a huge residue that we have to manage. Only in the Basque Country, we produce over 2,000 metric tons of latza sheep wool. And of course, it has a huge potential for various applications. Right now, Ternua is using it as insulation material for products such as jackets, but not only jackets, also for other outdoor appears and accessories. But we already know that this is not only limited to the textile industry. So we really need to explore the use of this wool in sectors such as construction, automotive, and packaging. We also know that there is an increasing demand from consumers for using products made from natural and renewable resources. And of course, this trend may drive the expansion of the wool market, not only in the Basque Country, but also globally. And we believe that to provide a market to this type of wool in the Basque Country will play a crucial role in supporting mainly local farmers, since they don't know what to do with this huge amount of residues. So main stakeholders for the Ternua case study, as I said in the first slide, we have the farmers or shippers as collectors of this kind of wool. Then we have the wool treatment. We also have a guest which will be presenting this kind of treatment for producing the wool yarn. Then we have textile manufacturing companies like Ternua, then consumers and end-of-life actors. And really important stakeholders for supporting the use of this kind of wool are government, academia, industry, and civil society. So which are the policies of relevance for our case study? So we have seen that mainly we have EU policy instruments covering this case study. We have first the eco-design requirements for sustainable production regulation, or the new eco-design directive, which is pending approval. And there are different sectors included in this new directive, but of course, one of them is the textile. Then we have other policy instruments or initiatives specific for the textiles, like the EU Strategy for Sustainable and Circular Textiles, the labeling regulation, the EU Ecolabel for textile products, and the One UNEP Textile Initiative. At the national level, we have the Circular Economy Strategy and the Strategic Plan for Recovery, Transformation, and Resilience in the Circular Economy, both including several sectors, but always the textile sector is a priority. And finally, at the regional level, in the Basque Country, we have the Circular Economy and Bioeconomy Plan, again, having a textile sector as a priority. And the most relevant indicators, we have a lot of them, but for us, the most relevant indicators for the Ternua case study are regarding the environmental indicators. We have the water consumption, and this is mainly important for the water, for the wool treatment. And as I said, we have a guest which will be talking about that. Then the global warming potential and the material circularity indicators, both related to the valorization of wood. Then we have social indicators, community engagement in terms of collaboration with farmers or shippers, and the contribution to economic development, mainly in terms of supporting the local shippers. So this is everything from my side. And now I will give the floor to Edu from Ternua. And I will be sharing again my screen. Okay. Can you see this? Yes?
Not yet,
No.
Janir.
Now.
Something is happening? Yes, perfect.
Okay. Okay, so Edu, please.
Okay, good morning to everyone. My name is Edu Ribesalvo. I am one of the founders of the Ternua brand, and actually I am the Innovation and Sustainability Director of Ternua Group. Our company is located in the Basque Country in the north of Spain. We are a company dedicated to design, developing and marketing fashion and sport equipment, with a very strong commitment to sustainability since our creation 35 years ago. We provide high performance clothing and equipment for various sports, like mainly outdoor, also teamwear and sports, but also we have our urban lifestyle brand, but always we take very closely how we put what we do and how we do it in the same level. So innovation is also very important, and environmental, of course. We are always questioning how we can do better what we are doing today. For that, we are always in constant looking for how we can do better what we are doing, and always looking for more sustainable solutions to the ones we are using at the moment. Taking care also the end life of the product. What we have identified like main needs is, we need to address circularity in all aspects and areas of the company, not only on the product. We are also focusing in the large amount of textile waste. We're very, very worried on that. And, we are working with our suppliers how we can work with more eco-friendly fabrics and treatments. But we think that we need to see how we can address all the textile waste through eco-design and circularity. How we can start selecting low-impact materials from the very beginning, how we can make long-lasting products, and how we can, how we can work the repair in the, to enlarge the lifetime of the product, and then how we can give a solution to the end life. This is something that we are working for several years, and this is what we are continuing to evolve. Another question is that we have a very big impact on footprint scope 3, and we are working to see how we can reduce it. We are working with our partner suppliers in different initiatives. We are members of the European Outdoor Group, and we are working with different brands to see how we can influence in the suppliers that we have in common, to see how we can reduce the impact, or how we can decarbonize the outdoor. We're also working on repair service in every country. We sell products in over 60 countries. So we are now focusing on how we can repair these products in finding different repair actors in different countries to keep our products longer in action. And another thing that, we have a lot of certifications as in the product, but also as a company. So on the product, we are Blue Science System partner, we have a responsible wool standard, we have a responsible down standard, we have a regenerative organic cotton, we have GOTS, we have GRS. So there is a lot of certification that we have to use, to evidence what we are saying and doing. And this is also, you know, a lot of cost for us in terms of money, but also in resources, people resources. We also identified that to address consumer concerns about where and how our products are made. You know, transparency and traceability are very crucial, but sometimes it's very difficult to achieve perfectly because some of our suppliers do not want to disclose where we know where the fabric is coming, but we don't know where the yarn is coming, and they don't want to give it to us. So this is something that we need to work with them very closely. And also we need to align the company very quickly with the legislation that is coming, because we need to be prepared to that. We are also focusing with our partner suppliers, the ones that they are selling our products. We want to improve the transparency, but we need to work directly with them. We have long-standing partnerships that they are also working in the same direction as us. The outdoor sector is very focused and is very sensitive on this. And we have we're working with the best suppliers. We are working with people that also align with this, and they are helping us to improve and go ahead the way we think the product needs to be made. Another thing that worries us, as I said before, is the cost of carrying all the certification, traceability, all that we need to do apart from what we are doing. We normally do design, produce, and sell garments, but this is not enough today. We have to do many other things that worries us because they are costly. All the certifications, all the initiative, we want to become a big company, all this makes our product more expensive to compare to the companies that are selling products that are not doing this. So this is also something that needs to be taken into account, and it's a challenge for us.
Thank you very much, Edu. It was very interesting, everything.
Thanks very much.
Now I will give the floor to Egarfield, which is the wool yarn producer and provider of Ternua, among others. Okay, and for that we have Jordi Gavarro. One moment, I will share my screen. Okay, then Jordi, please go ahead. Jordi, you are muted.
Now?
Perfect, Jordi.
Okay, good. Sorry. My name is Jordi. I'm the sales manager of a Spanish company, Egarfield. We are based nearby Barcelona. Well, for more than 75 years, we are producing yarns for the textile industry for many different textile applications, like upholstery, automotive fabrics, socks, a bit for fashion, a bit for knitting yarns, other industrial uses. During our history, we've been changing strategies. Actually, the company is mostly based on natural fibers. We are wool spinners. We have abandoned a big part of the production of synthetic fibers to go to the natural fibers, mostly 100% wool and wool mixtures. Due to our technology, we produce what we call worsted yarns or combat yarns. So we need long fiber lengths of minimum 75 millimeters up. And obviously we need to use wool tops that previously have been washed. Okay, so we do buy the wool already washed and combed. Normally that wool is washed actually outside Spain and sometimes even outside Europe. Why? Well, after the crisis of the textile industry in the 80s and the 90s, many spinning mills have disappeared, and at the same time that the spinning mills are being disappeared, it has been disappeared the washing facilities, and have been disappearing the combing facilities. So this makes that in Spain we are one of the few remaining spinning mills, but there is no more washing facilities here, and there is no more combing facilities here. Eggerfield is using wool from everywhere in the world. We are using wool from Australia, from New Zealand, from South America, from South Africa, from England, obviously we use Spanish wool as well. But all this wool is not washed in Spain, is not combed in Spain, because there are no facilities for this. So we are obliged to buy the wool to the traders in Europe mostly, and then they bring the wool from everywhere in the world. Mostly the washing facilities right now and the combing facilities are in countries where the costs are lower and the legislation is not so high as here. It can be Portugal, it can be the Czech Republic, even it can be Egypt for the washing. Or for the combing, it can be France or Italy. Combing is not the big issue. The big issue is the washing of the wool. To create or to install actually washing facilities in a country like Spain would suppose a big investment, very expensive, and to follow up all the necessary permits to develop these activities. So we don't see this possible here in Spain. Okay. It's a complex to wash the wool, obviously. So you need complex treatments to comply to the current legislations. The water treatments are expensive. Investment is really very high. So obviously, as you can imagine, to bring the wool tops from Australia, from South America, from other countries, this is a big impact. We would like to use as much of a Spanish wool as possible, but this is not the case right now. I can put you also an example. Before the pandemic, the Spanish wool farmers were very happy because Chinese market came to Spain and bought all the existing raw wool available without washing. They took everything. After the pandemic, the market was stopped. China didn't come again. And right now the Spanish farmers have the wool there and they don't know what to do even with wool because there are no washing facilities here. So this is a big issue for the textile industry. And okay, we keep going on, but in case of new projects, this is a big handicap right now. Okay. Well, Eggerfield is following up all what we need to follow up with our certifications, same as my colleague Edu has explained to you before. This is a big impact on the costs of the company because okay, we need to follow up Oecotex. We are one of the few textile industries in Spain having eco-label certification. We are right now being certified for responsible wool standard, but this is just first steps. There are much more. There is a responsible mohair certification. There is responsible alpaca certification. There is GRS. There are many more that customers are asking to us, but as I always say, we cannot hold all the certification. This is a big cost on money. And as Edu said, also with human resources, that sometimes we do not have. And the most worry thing for the future is that we don't know which one of these certifications will be the right one, because we see some certifications that sometimes are very requested by some customers, but sometime later nobody do this and nobody take cares about it. So new certifications are coming, and this is a big it's a big issue also for the companies. So yeah, a little bit this is my explanation, my speech. If you need any other information, we'll be very glad to give you.
Thank you very much, Jordi. It was very interesting. Now I think we are giving the floor to the Italian case study, right? And then we have 10 minutes for questions on the wool sector. Thank you.
Okay, so I hand it over from now on. Just give me 1 second to share my screen again. I think you will be able to see it in the presentation mode now. Now. Okay, so for the wood cluster, let's name it this way. We have 2 different case studies. Now we heard about the Spanish case study. Here we move on with the Italian Prato case study, which we named as recycled carded wool from Prato. And then we will have 2 invited speakers also for this case study. Just a brief introduction about the Prato value chain. The Prato textile district is located in the Tuscany region in Italy, and it is considered one of the largest industrial districts in the country. So the largest textile center in the Europe and handling approximately 15% of the world's recycled clothing. In our case, for the Prato value chain, we are considering the end-of-life phase practically, and we are using it as the secondary raw material, and we are using waste wool for mechanical recycling to process or to produce yarns and fabrics, which can be used in different sectors to produce new materials. And wool is an easily recyclable material, but the recycling rates are not very high globally. It's reported that the share of recycled wool production corresponds to only 6% of the total production globally. And the recycled wool market size was valued last year as slightly above $100 million US, and with a yearly growth rate of 3.23%, it is expected to reach almost $125 million US by 2032. And the Prato district is one of the world's most important hubs for the production of wool yarns and fabrics, and it boasts around 9,000 family-run small wool processing mills and textile companies. And here there is also a trademark called Cardato Recycled, issued by the Prato Chamber of Commerce, and it ensures that fabrics and yarns produced in the district contain at least 65% recycled material and meet strict environmental impact criteria, including water consumption, energy use, and carbon dioxide emissions. And also in this case, we have various stakeholders in terms of governance bodies, such as Municipality of Prato, International Wool Textile Organization. We have some also research institutes, such as the CNR or Next Technology Techno-Textile, which we are going to have which we are going to have a presentation just after mine. And we have some industrial partners which are certified producers, not limited to this list, but this can just give an idea of some firms. And RIFO is also with us today. They are going to give their presentation speech in a couple of minutes. And Comistra, Manteca, Lanificio, Paltex are the other well-known producers. And also we have civil society partners as stakeholders, such as Chamber of Commerce and Industry. And of course, we are checking the policies of relevance here, but in our case study, the focus is more on the regional side, so that we are mainly focusing on what is happening in the policy sphere in the Prato region. But of course, we are also using higher scope policy instruments, such as EU Strategy for Sustainable and Circular Textiles, as well as national policy instruments such as legislative decrees and laws, especially the one known as Made in Italy law. We have a regional strategy called Toscana Carbon Neutral 2050. And for the local scale, we have Next Generation Prato, Cardato Recycled trademark, as well as the Memorandum of Understanding for implementing the objectives of Next Generation Prato with regard to the realization of the textile recycling hub. And just a quick list of relevant sustainability indicators in different spheres. We have environmental indicators being global warming potential as the main indicator in all case studies. And we also have water intensity and the waste intensity, meaning the volume of water used in the Prato divided by the total number of kilograms of textiles produced annually, or the textile waste generated divided by the total weight of textile production in the region. And we have some social indicators and economic indicators as well. For the social indicators, we identify the percentage of public supplies by the Prato textile industry that respect sustainability criteria. And also for the economic ones, we have total amount of funding provided to small textile companies for innovation, and the percentage of recycled textile materials used out of total materials used in the textile production in Prato. So I wanted to keep it very short since we are going to have two speakers, Daniele Spinelli from Next Technology Technotextile, which is a research and development center in Prato, and followed by Nicolo Cipriani, which is the CEO of Rifo, which is the local producer of this recycled wool. So if Daniele, can you share your screen, or do you prefer me to share for you? Okay.
Up to you. You can share.
Okay, please go ahead.
Can you see my screen?
Almost. Yeah, not in the presentation mode yet.
I will put.
Here we are. Yes, the floor is yours.
Okay. So really a short introduction about Next Technology Technotextile. We are a public-private research organization founded in 1972, and we are located in Prato, as you have just explained, is one of the main textile districts in Europe. The organization was established to support companies to improve their competitiveness at product and process level. So the organization has two different types of stakeholder. 40% is led by Ministry of University and Research, and 60% is led by textile and machinery textile industry. So our organization consists of the main headquarters in Prato, and we have other two dedicated labs for material validation. So we are involved in composites and metals validation and textile and leather products. At the moment, we are 25 people and divided from different divisions, from chemical part and R&D activities, lab, and automation and administrative management. So our main business is to support companies to have a sort of green and more sustainable transition, and try also to create a network between companies and also other research institutes for which we are collaborating at the European level. So mainly we are trying to transfer knowledge and also to try to test and validate products for different sectors before to enter on the market. So in terms of technological priorities, we are quite involved in a circular economy. So mainly we are taking into account innovation for sorting of post-consumer textile, and also all of activities related to mechanical and chemical recycling approaches. In terms of sustainability for textile sector, we are working on natural and bio-based fibers for different applications from fashion industries, but also for technical textile, and also try to find a bio-based solution for finishing and dyeing of textiles. So in terms of strategies and also what also the market is requesting for the next period. So for textile, we need to have maybe to reach 4 different aspects. First of all, the durability of a textile, but also the textile of the future should be also repairable, but also recyclable. So this is because we are trying to work from the design of a new products that should be think to be recyclable. And it's important also to improve the percentage of the recycled fibers on the market, and try also to limit and reduce the use of hazardous substances. At the moment, for example, at European level, we are also taking into account the environmental and healthy problem generated by use of fluorinated compounds, mainly for finishing of materials. And the last part is related to produce respecting also the social rights. In terms of the European Union's legislation, we are moving to an eco-design for sustainable product regulation, mainly also connected to the development of digital product passport. Try also to improve the traceability of the circular products, and try also to push environmental sustainability aspect of the products that are entering up to now on the EU market. For sure, we need also to have efforts in a revision of the textile labeling regulation. So also try to include the codes and symbols to identify fiber, to demonstrate, for example, in case of leather and fur, the authenticity, the origin, the care, the size, allergenic substances, and other. And in terms of, in order to reach some gaps that are at the moment limiting the sustainability of the textile sector, we are also involved in collaboration with different opportunities that are coming from Horizon Europe program, in order to have a new bio-based or natural-based solution to substitute chemicals in textile production. So just to say that at the moment, in terms of environmental and social impact, we can say that more than 80% of post-consumer textile goes to incineration landfill, and more than 90% of the clothing waste can be reusable or recyclable. Also, more than 50 million people that are living in modern slavery are also deriving from fast fashion. So these are challenges that we need to overcome for the next future. So said that, from entity side, we have several commitments. Mainly, we are involved in R&D activities to push innovative and alternative materials that are based on bio-based solution, but also promoting the use of recycled fibers. We are also involved in R&D chemistry of polymers and textiles, mainly to have innovative processes technologies, but also we are promoting the use of alternative chemicals that could be used also with conventional processing. We are also trying to establish new networking activities among textile stakeholders, mainly to put in collaboration companies with research institutes. And we are also trying to push innovation and formation for textile sector, mainly for workers, in order to have a deeply knowledge on sustainability industry. We are also supporting a company through LCA, LCC, and social LCA and eco-design evaluation, so mainly in our district, but also through the other collaboration in other industrial sector. Just to say that in our district, Alia, that is the waste management company, is involved in the realization of a Prato textile hub that will be active in the first half of 2026. And the hub will process two different type of streams that are coming from post-consumer material, around 20,000 tons, and 30,000 tons will come from pre-consumer material. So the plant will perform sorting of materials, also using AI models and also near-infrared spectroscopy, and also to have a more clean flow of fiber. And NTT will support this project, mainly working in optimization of automatic sorting and mechanical recycling, with a goal to have a new materials that could feed the textile companies in our district. And that's all from my side.
Thank you, Daniele. And if you might, yes, now I will leave the floor to Nicola from LIFO. Just to remind you that we have again 5 minutes from your presentation, just to introduce yourself and to introduce us the challenges that you have been facing with this transition. Nicola, the floor is yours.
Okay, well, nice to meet you all. Thank you very much for the invitation. I would like to talk about our experience. We are a circular fashion brand. We were born in 2018. Before actually I was working in development cooperation in Vietnam. And I started RE for two reasons. The first one was because I realized the problem of overproduction and overconsumption in the fashion industry and its implications. And on the other side, I was born and then grown up in Prato, and Prato has a long history about recycling. So my idea since the beginning was to give value to what we produce here, to what we recycle here. I can say that it's much easier today to do, let's say, like a fast fashion business model than a circular fashion business model, because both the legislative framework and the customer behavior are towards price, towards like the less price, the lowest price as possible. And this has implications on the environment and on the society. It's difficult, especially on some materials, to have better cost than virgin materials. It's also why Prato textile cluster was born. It was born on recycled wool and recycled cashmere because they were more competitive in terms of price than virgin cashmere and virgin wool. When we talk about cotton, linen, and silk, the cost is much higher than the virgin ones. So what we see now is still like, from one side, there is still not awareness, education about the difference between a virgin material and a recycled one, especially on its environmental impact. On the other side, we see a lot of communication on circularity, on circular fashion, on circular economy, as it is the only solution. But it's not actually. We all work in this industry. We all know that circularity is not infinitive. At a certain point, you need a material to be degrade. You need a natural material. You cannot think that you can recycle 10 times wool or cotton. It's impossible for the technology we have at the moment. And on the other side, we still focus when we produce on not monomaterial productions. And there aren't clear framework on this. There isn't a definition of recyclability at the European Union level. And it's also difficult to explain to customers that what they buy in general is not recycled because it's a mix of natural and synthetic fibers. They don't know the concept of recyclability. And most of the things we produce today, they are not made with monomaterial composition because we try to produce the product with the lowest cost and with the higher margin. And this mentality hasn't changed. And I think, so in terms of framework, there should be a clearer framework about recyclability and the impact of recycled materials. At the same time, now with the digital passport, product passport, there are LCAs everywhere. There isn't a framework on that. We can find LCA easily online and we can publish them on our website, in our e-commerce without check. Everyone is publishing data about the impact, but few of them are really scientifically approved. So I think there is, from one side, a lot of push towards circularity and sustainability. At the same time, there isn't a clear direction. Also, when we talk about extended product responsibility, there isn't a clear direction towards recyclability because actually, if I make a garment that is made to be recycled or if it's made to be reused and repaired, I shouldn't pay a tax. I should pay a tax if what I produce is made to be disposed. So it's okay that I pay a tax because that's a hidden cost that everyone pays. So in my view, we are changing to not changing. We talk a lot about circularity, we talk a lot about circular economy, but at the same time, we still have the same issues. And in addition, we need to understand that recycled materials doesn't mean sustainability. Recycled materials, they have an impact. Sustainability is another thing. Sustainability is to produce less and to consume less. This doesn't change. We will need to change our business model. A fast fashion company can never be sustainable because its business model is based on quantity and not on quality. If we don't change this, we are not achieving circularity. We are just changing the system in order to continue to do the business as usual. So these are the main challenges we face. At the same time, it's good that since 5 years there are much more investments in this industry. It's good that there is much more interest. At the same time, sometimes I have the sensation that is only the facade, is greenwashing, is just, okay, I change the system in order to sell more, in order to produce more. It's not that. We, in the fashion industry, in my view, we have reached a peak of production. We can only decrease it. The companies that can work well are the companies that they can substitute the actual offer. But we cannot think that green economy or circularity is a way to grow more. It's not. But it's a way to focus on value instead of quantity. This is important. And also, it's important to invest in technologies that can also like split the fibers, chemical recycling, especially automized sorting that can also make the fibers more accessible. But at the same time, we cannot think that we apply the same principles we used to apply to a circular economy. We need to change that. And that's where I find more, let's say, like challenges from the standard fashion industry or the standard industry in general.
Okay. Thank you, Niccolo, for the insights. I think it's perfectly aligned with what we are doing in our project. So when we say circular bio-based products, it is never for granted that they are going to be more sustainable. So this is also why we are developing all these monitoring tools to identify what would be the savings, would be the costs of this transition as well. So I don't know, I would like to just ask Valentina if we would like to have questions and answers right now, or shall we open the discussion for all partners to contribute? How would you proceed?
Yeah, I think we can start opening the Miro, and then you can pick up the questions that you think are more interesting while people are already working on the Miro board. So I ask to Luis to share the screen and give all participants a brief technical explanation on how to use the Miro board. I will put the link for every one of you in the chat so you can contribute by writing your contributions in the Miro. Please, Luis.
Okay, so to use the Miro is pretty straightforward. You can use your mouse to zoom in with the mouse wheel, or you can use the zoom on the bottom right tool that you find in the Miro. You can scroll by using your right button of the mouse, and what we ask you is to pick one of those sticky notes that Valentina will tell you just in a second, and move it in the right area, and then double click and write your contribution. Valentina, up to you.
Thank you, Luis. So as Luis was saying, we are asking you to insert. So we already heard from our pitchers some challenges related to the specific case study, so the whole world or the man-made cellulosic fibers. And all these challenges and recommendations that we heard from them were already reported in this Miro board. So we are asking to you to highlight your challenges if they are different from those we heard from our pitchers. So you can take the red post-it or write your challenge and put it in the board, either referring to specific case studies or to the general textile sectors. But we are also interested in collecting your good practices that respond to specific challenges or recommendations you would like to implement to overcome some of these challenges. And for indicating your good practices and recommendations, you can take the green post-it and move it in the board. We are also collecting policy context. I think that already in all the presentations, we really collected many policy contexts in which the different case studies and in general the sector is operating. But if you want to notify other policy context, feel free to do it. You see that the board is divided not only per case studies or whole sector, but you also have these three dimensions: policy, sustainability, including the environmental and social dimensions, and the economic market dimension. So your challenges, good practices, recommendation can refer to these big, let's say, dimensions that we already heard during the pitches. So while you are starting doing this exercise, if you want to speak up, please feel free also to raise your hand, or if you prefer to write in the chat, because if you have difficulties in entering the Miro board, by the way, I put a link in the chat. Feel free also to use the chat. We will take your contributions from there. Said that, I will leave the floor to our experts if you already want to pick some questions or some specific inputs in the Miro board.
I just want to add, this is Susanna, the fact that all these contributions together with the ones that are in the chat will be analyzed, will be structured and reported in the conference that will take place in September, in which we will aggregate all the results from the 4 different workshops. So keep on contributing, because you are giving a boost to our research. So many thanks.
Can I ask a question for explanation in the Miro board? Because we saw that it was mentioned several times that the level playing field is not equal for the circular textiles in general. And well, of course, there are many policies in the making currently, but are there people from industry that have really specific solutions to creating a better level playing field? For example, I saw the comments that actually, for example, in fast fashion, you have to actually also ask a price for the non-sold garments, for example. That's very concrete, I think. And I'm sure you have more concrete measures that would work.
Yeah, this was very, I have added this in the Miro board, this tax to ultra fast fashion brands, and this was proposed by Gemma Gomez. It's in the debate also. I don't know, Gemma, if you want to say something, but I see it like a really important issue, not to be covered.
Yes, thanks, Daniele. Yeah, I think it's really very important to take in account that microplastic release, all this stuff I wrote in my question. If we don't take in account the real impact in the PEF that fossil fuels, fossil fashion is causing, then how can we promote bio-based? When you, in the PEF, you have all the supply chain since the very beginning of the animals when they are in farms, right? But in the case of the synthetic fibers, we just start when with the production of the yarn. So for me, I think it's really very important. And we don't also take in account, for example, the compostability of the natural fabrics, okay? We are a little bit forgotten about nature. So we don't realize that when you produce a wool, for example, it will be naturally compostable. So all these ideas should be also in the PEF taking, because if we want to, and also finally, not last but not least, the social impacts. If we don't take care of the people that are in the farms, the people that are the producing our food, the people that are in the goods, taking care of the forest, it's impossible to be sustainable because the inertia is the synergy of producing so many things is so huge in this economic system that we are going to forget the people that really take care of our food, of our well-being, generally speaking. So that's the point. Thank you, Daniele.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gemma. And yeah, just a question, because you mentioned the composting of fibers, like wood fibers, but I think that it could be, this is a question, that the main problem is that textiles, they are not only made from one material, but from a mix of materials. So how can you manage this kind of textiles at the end of life? No, this is a problem. So for that, I have also added here, and this was proposed by Edu also, transparency and traceability are crucial. So I have added here the digital product passport.
Yeah, completely.
This will change a lot.
Yeah, and also not to forget that industry nowadays is as it is because we have been pushing for it, okay, since the 60s, 50s, you know. So we have invested a lot of money in synthetic fibers. So if we start to invest in natural fibers and taking care of the people and taking care of the end of life, as you mentioned, promoting monomaterials, like wool, like flax, hemp, etc. Also, taking into account that cotton and hemp, they can take CO2 from the atmosphere and put in a safe way in the soil, because all this is not in this PEF. You know, I have only mentioned some of the ideas, okay, but there is much more to analyze. So, but I don't want to take more time. But yeah, I think there should be a deep analysis about all these issues, the benefits of the natural materials that came from nature and are in an easy way compostable, biodegradable, etc. And yeah, and well, also, of course, for our well-being, our health, that many times our health is forgotten.
Yeah, definitely.
Can I ask your opinions about whether it would be useful if, for example, in the EU market, we would require a target for a share of our textiles or garments made of natural material. I'm comparing that to the renewable energy target, where you really have targets for transport biofuels.
Mm-hmm.
And you see that this creates a niche market.
Mm-hmm.
And would that work, do you think?
Wow, such a big question. I think, yeah, I think it can be interesting. I'm not so, I don't know so much about the target in energy, okay, in renewable energy, but I think it could be something interesting for sure if you start to make the public, you know, you have a target for the public, how do you call it? Public buying for textiles, for example, for uniforms, etc., is something that we have already talked also with Edu sometimes because we know each other. And I think it will be great because remember that wool is one of the best fiber all over. Now it's completely forgotten, but it's the best eco-design fiber. Is where yeah, for sure. So if we are talking about eco-design policies, you know, maybe we have to have this in mind that we have already, and also the ships are good for the ecosystems, okay, when in producing in a regenerative way. So yeah, I think it could be a very great idea. I'm not so much into it. I don't know about energy, but I think it could be a very good idea.
Good. Yeah. And what about that has been mentioned in the Miro board, that there should be a lower VAT for sustainable textiles. Would this be enough compensation? Do you think it will help? Because I don't know how big the cost difference is between, let's say, the natural-based garments and the synthetic ones.
Well, I have to say that I don't understand the question, which is the IFI, sorry?
Yeah, that's the tax that you pay on products.
El IVA, Gemma, el IVA.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, for sure. Any kind of any kind. All this measurement, the one I think is that there is no the magic answer. It's like when you promote sustainability, it's not just about economic education, it's all together. So here is the same. The point is that to have a real willing, not to promote real sustainability is the same for farmers. Farmers, last week, 900 farmers signed a letter, okay, about this issue. Again, if we don't take them in account, it's not going to be possible to live in 10 years' time, okay? In Guipúzcoa, where Ternua is based, the 97% of food comes from abroad. I think we need to start to think in a proactive way that what is going to happen and to advance before this happen, okay? Because there is, for example, a cut in oil or all this stuff, how the people in Guipúzcoa is going to feed themselves, you know? So for me, we need a more holistic way of thinking, okay?
Yeah, we definitely, the consumers, we need to change our mind and we need to understand that we cannot buy a t-shirt for €5.
Yeah, for sure.
This is probably not sustainable.
Yeah.
And I would like to ask maybe Edu, because Berian asked if we decrease the VAT, so the IVA, Edu, are you there? And we put also a tax to ultra fashion fast brands, if we could make like somehow, not that they are at the same level, but I don't think so.
I didn't understand very well the question. Say it
That we were proposing two different things, like putting a tax to ultra fast fashion brands,
yeah.
but also to decrease to the 10% the IVA. Okay.
Yeah.
So we can maybe the level playing field for these two kind of textiles would be the same, but I don't think so, because the difference on the price is really huge.
Yeah,
So even if we put these two taxes, no, this is not going to be in any case fair.
No, the difference is much, much bigger. We're talking about, you know, like, I don't know, we are losing the value of the things. You know, you cannot sell, you cannot buy a T-shirt in $3.95. Like we in our province, you go to, you know, it's very typical. You go to have beer and then a tapa. You know, if you go out to a bar and a tapa, you pay a beer and a tapa. It lasts 15 minutes. It's €6. How can a T-shirt that has to be grown, harvest, blah 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 blah, made, caught, sold, blah blah blah, transported from, you know, from 15,000, 20,000 kilometers? How can that be just this? It's not possible. You know, it's not sustainable. There's a lot of people that are not getting what they should get for sewing or for making or for whatever they're doing. So, you know, the difference is very, 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 very big. Like now we are facing big challenges, like with companies like Shein. You know, there's a lot of transport coming here, a lot of products. They don't even pay taxes. They don't do nothing. They just bring products flying to your house. You get a big box, and it travels all the way to your house, free of charge. Inside, only €26, and it comes free of charge.
Yeah.
You take away the product and send it back. You send back the product, the box, send it back to the origin, and it will cost you over €150. So
yeah,
you know,
I see two hands raised.
Yes. Luis, I think you were the first. I think Luis Barros.
I don't know if it was Devendra, but if I just want to add something. I think the problem is that they're bringing up these laws with in terms of restrictions, and that means that every single company that wants to make a sustainable product has to not only pay for those restrictions, but they have to pay more for all the procedures that they have to implement in order to have the follow the rules. But I think it would be necessary to have some type of aid. If it's not in terms of lowering the tax, it would have to be like in some terms of economic assistance to those companies that want to promote those truly sustainable products and stop making these penalties for every single company. I think that would be the biggest problem here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Luis.
Devendra, there is another hand.
Yeah,
Please.
hi everyone. I'm in the dilemma around the topic of taxing ultra fast fashion, because I think the major component of
can you speak a bit better in the microphone, because it's difficult
I think
to
it's
hear.
sorry, there's some background noise here. So the question was basically around, should we tax fast fashion or should we incentivize better use of materials or better material use? I think the question is, if a brand is able to use better material that has a better footprint in terms of environmental or social dimension, I think that should be more incentivized in terms of policy angle, so that the other things or the other brands that are using materials that are not having a better footprint, we automatically feel the burden of it and regulate that from the market perspective so that the baseline becomes a common denominator. Because in terms of labor costing and etc., it's almost similar when they're producing in a specific region. So even if a brand is charging for the same pairs of jeans, $500, another brand is charging 200 or 100, they're producing almost in the same factory. So the labor costing is not changing. It's the marketing expenses, it's the material expenses that is changing. So incentivizing or taxing fast fashion doesn't work well because other people will do automatically what they're still doing. Like, I think it's more about which materials that you want to control in the market or not allow to enter. That will, I think, make a bigger difference in terms of what can happen and what will happen. That's my opinion on this one.
Thank you.
So I'm not sure everybody heard it well, but I understand that there's more needed than only taxing, because I mean, so more stricter regulation about what can enter the market is more effective. Yeah, is that correct?
Yes, I think that's more kind of being able to control the situation, I guess. Instead of taxing ultra fast fashion, if they are also bringing probably better materials, then it doesn't change much.
Okay, thank you.
And there is another question, Tatiana.
Hello, my name is Tatiana. I'm from Finland, and we're a bit end of life project. We are working with waste textiles, but I think I would like to make some comments as well. For example, about taxing. Then you influence the system by taxing. I mean, our textile business system. You causing a pressure. Pressure will cause a reaction, and in this case, you're causing economical pressure, and you have a social reaction by introducing the VAT or other. Increasing the taxes for fast fashion, you will cause the fast fashion companies will pay even less than to third countries or producers. So it's a open question. Like, just think about this. What is sustainability? Sustainability has a really a lot of dimensions, and the taxing in Europe will influence the life because it's a global world now. It's a globalization. So it's what Edo and the previous speaker, I'm so sorry, I missed the name, talking about. Make it about Europe. Some limits, some maybe motivational instruments, how to produce in Europe, how to produce from scratch, from field to fork, not to fork, but to garn. Not about taxes, because if you will produce it in a Europe, it wouldn't fast fashion, because the prices are different. Thank you very much.
This is a really important point.
Yeah.
If we increase the taxes to fast fashion, then this may happen that they are paying less, no, in those facilities in which they are producing these fast fabrics.
Yeah, yeah. Can I then, instead of taxes, what about an overall carbon tax on all products that we consume? Where you penalize more the fossil carbon. I mean, I know that the Joint Research Center of the EU is also working on this, and that's also a promise that was made in the Green Deal, that this will be researched.
I think, Beren, it could be the tricky trap as well, because we have carbon credits now, and the people just will compensate it with carbon credits, and that's all.
Okay, but this is not only when you look at it, that would be for the industry, the perspective, but it will also force, of course, consumers to make the right choices.
We're definitely looking for working with consumers. We have a Erasmus project working with perception for fast fashion in a younger population, and that's what we need to do. How Nico says it's recycling doesn't mean sustainability. Sustainability means less consumption and what you are consuming.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Tatiana. I see Stefan.
I succeeded finding the button for raising hand. Jana, I fully agree to you, and also to the other remarks. I have been calculating, I've been working in spinning for a long time. It is in the middle of the chain. And two aspects, I think, or three aspects for this fast fashion discussion, which is raising up now the problems. So many textile products coming into the market, just buy cheap and throw away. It's exactly the topic about consumption. We have been trained for decades to have a growing industry to buy more, to buy exceeding our needs. We have been trained to. It is our personal topic to come out of it. Yeah? Be understanding about prices and taxes. Prices in textile are defined by the price of marketing, making collections, sell 1/3 of the collection at price, 1/3 give away for nothing, and 1/3 to dump. That means 1/3 has to pay all. Yeah? So no chance with taxes. Yeah? Carbon footprint calculation, very nice ideas. I've been challenging to alone calculate the carbon footprint of spinning, which is about 1/3 in the average of a textile. Yeah? It's extremely difficult. And each textile has a different chain. Each textile has different contributors. It's not feasible in this split chain to make a feasible carbon calculation to make taxes on it. Yeah, you would create a tremendous bureaucracy, and it will not be fair at the end, because those ones with the bigger pockets will go through and say, I get some, I don't know, paid certificates.
Yeah. Yeah. So what is then the solution, Stefan?
My solution is two aspects. Bringing the one idea has been about this taxes for short fashion. We can't define short fashion. Short fashion also has typically less waste than the fast fashion. Yeah? I would rather say, if we could make similar as the car industry, they have to have their overall consumption of the cars has to be reduced at so and so much fuels per kilometer in average. If you say there is an average of fibers contained in the total textiles brought into the European market of X% crude oil-based fibers. This is relatively easy to understand. There is a declaration need, how much cotton, how much wool, and then you can declare, okay, this is recycled fibers, it's no virgin fiber. Yeah? There could be the chance to have it somehow set, and every textile trade is calculated in kilogram and tons.
Okay.
This would be an idea I have in this discussion. And then this other thing which we learned in at least in mid-Europe, in Germany, about this bio and meat eating and so on, inform public. Make awareness where in this textile cycle we are creating waste, where we are using have an environmental impact. We will have environmental impact with the things we take, but we have to learn where it is, make more awareness of the cheap textiles not being just cheap Chinese products, but high-tech products where our European machinery industry is living from. Yeah? And a lot of people around the world are living from. And cheap textiles basically have the chance for everybody in the world to buy clothes, to buy even fashion clothes, and to have some dignity as a person.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, but well, you have put at least some solution is this lowering of the fossil fiber share in the market.
This could be an idea to head it. And for the Shein and the fast fashion, which is the biggest impact, is about this cheap and uncontrolled trade. And this is the topic of how we organize trade. Do we have limitations to commercial sendings, yeah, cost-wise and tax-wise, tax exemption-wise?
Yeah, so that's the other aspect that you think that can be, more regulated. Yeah. Okay. Good. Yeah. And this is in the Miro board, these 2 points. I saw the first point is already in the Miro board.
Yes, the other point, which one was the second one? I just have been speaking too much.
Well, we will put it in.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
I think we need to finish.
Yes, I think it's time, unfortunately, to close because the discussions were very interesting. So we will leave the Miro board open in any case for 1 week if you still want to add your contributions also in a second time. And also we have put both in the Miro and in the chat the emails of our experts, so you can follow up to them if you're interested in contributing with your experience with SaaStrack. And also I think that our experts will follow up with some of you for deepening some other interesting questions. So thank you really a lot for your valuable contributions. I just want to close saying that if you're interested in tomorrow, there will be another, the final workshop of this series about plastics. So you're still in time to register to the workshop. And in September, we will give a plenary session where we will report all the outcomes and results stemming from your valuable contributions. So we hope to see you there. We will send you all the information. I think I just want to thank all the participants, all our experts for this very valuable discussion. And I want to wish you a great day. And thanks again.